All right. So we've been talking a lot about summer sports and how sometimes it can be difficult to find things to talk about. But one of the things that is currently going on in the sporting world that plays such a pivotal role in the summer is baseball. Locally, obviously, we have some of the local baseball teams, minor league, college. One team that does not exist anymore is the North Carolina Central baseball team. And joining us now to talk a bit about that in his book, The Last Dance, The Eagles Rise to Extinction, Ed Porcelli, William Peace baseball assistant coach. For those of you who are watching on WRL Sports Plus, I have a copy of the book right in front of me. We're doing the nice kind of like Vanna White model with it in front of the camera right now. Ed, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. It's great to be with both of you guys here on 99.9 The Fan in the beautiful Triangle area. Thank you so much for having me on.
Absolutely. So, Ed, I want to read this book. The concept itself is very fascinating. The witnessing of this extinction, as you put it, of the NCCU baseball program firsthand. Take me to that moment when the team finds out in season that what they were playing will be the final season of that team's baseball history.
You know, guys, it was really surreal when it all happened. Just a couple of hours before that meeting that we had at the McConnell Center, where the NCCU basketball team plays their home games, Jim Kerner, our head coach, had called a meeting with all the coaches, and we met over at Durham Athletic Park in the coaches' room, and let us know that they decided that this would be the last season, and there would not be baseball after the spring season was over. What was really shocking about the whole thing was we had no understanding of why they would decide to cancel a program with virtually every aspect of the program was thriving. And it was like really the carpet was swept out from underneath the entire organization, from the alumni to the players to the coaches and even the recruits. We had an incredible recruiting class coming in over the next 2 years, and to know that they would all have to go and restart the recruiting process, because as you know, Division I schools, they usually are recruiting 2 years ahead of time. So if you're a future, a rising senior, and you haven't gotten your offer yet, and you're trying to play D1, it's going to be very difficult for you. So when we went into that meeting, I knew what was going to happen, and the kids didn't. And to look at their faces when the athletic director said this would be the last season was the moment that I decided that I was going to write this book, because they had given everything and they committed to the university, and their university basically turned their back on them. So I felt like I needed to be their voice. And when you write a book, you don't write, guys like me, we don't write books to try and make money. We try and write a book to try and get the word out of whether it's an injustice or whether it's a feeling or just what we're trying to let the public know about the circumstances that happen that maybe they don't know about.
Ed Porcelli joining us, author of The Last Dance, The Eagles Rise to Extinction, about North Carolina Central's baseball program in their final year. This was in 2021. I'm not sure we got the date out there. Before the season starts in 2021, I'm assuming the 2020 season was canceled because of COVID. So now we're in 2021. These players are called into a meeting and told, this is it. This is the last season, and I'm sure many of these players, that was their last season ever playing baseball.
Actually, for a couple of them, there were. We did have a number of guys that were able to successfully transfer over to other schools. One, Caleb McRoy, our left-handed closer, ended up playing at Duke the next year. Had a really good showcase against them in one of our games. Faced their 3, 4, and 5 hitters and struck all 3 of them out. And Coach Pollard over there said, well, if he could strike out the heart of our lineup, I think he could probably do a pretty good job for us. And more importantly, he was able to get a degree at a prestigious university such as Duke, and that will carry with him for the rest of his life. And then there were some other ones that some transferred to A&T, some transferred to Longwood. We had guys that went all over the board. But we did have two guys that had eligibility left and just decided to hang it up. One of them was on a full academic ride, a gentleman by the name of Nick Fajardo. He was our center fielder. But he was going there basically as an academic kid. And, that was really the biggest thing that separated us from even all the other athletic teams at North Carolina Central. For 10 straight years that Jim Kerner, who was the head coach, was at the head of at the helm, every single year they had the highest GPA on campus. And the last year we won the ABCA Coaches Award which is given to 60 teams throughout the United States for academic excellence. And it really got to the point what was the mission statement for an HBCU when it comes to athletics? Is it to put guys in the pros, or is it to get guys graduated and become productive members of society? And, I thought we did as good a job as any when it came to that aspect of being a student athlete.
Ed Porcelli, William Peace baseball assistant coach, former North Carolina Central baseball assistant coach, and author of The Last Dance, The Eagles Rise to Extinction, joining us on the Heister Automotive Group hotline. I'm Louis Fernandez. Brian Murphy sitting alongside of me. Ed, this to me, obviously, anytime a team like this just does not exist anymore, it's always tough for the people who are involved. But it's something that I feel like has become a lot more common, especially ever since COVID in 2020. Is a story like NCCU something that you see in a lot of different places across the country when it comes to college athletics?
Well, over the past, the past 7 or 8 years, there have been 5 HBCUs that have dropped baseball. There are only 17, I believe, left in the United States. They're dropping like flies. And what we really need to focus on, and I touch on this a little bit, not only in this book, but my last book, Scabs Heal All Wounds, where I talk a little bit about the dynamics of, where the game is going in terms of the demographics, is that the participation by different ethnicities has changed. Back in 1980, 25% of the major league rosters had, or I should say 10% of the major league rosters had Latinos starting on the starting lineup. 25 years later, it's 25%. Meanwhile, since the 1960s, participation of baseball by African Americans has gone down every single year. And right now in college, Division I through Division III college, only 4.4% of the players that participate are African American. So what you find in HBCUs is that the demographic of the baseball team is 180 degrees to the demographic of the baseball team. So you've got a student population that is completely different than what the baseball team is. That's standard across the board. I think we need, as the Major League Baseball teams professionally, need to, I think, go into into each of their markets and reteach this game to the youth to understand why. And I use this phrase very purposely. Some of the most exciting parts of a baseball game is when there's nobody on the field moving. You got a 3-2 count, bases loaded, the tying run or the winning run is on second, and everybody is still, but the tension is rising. In today's market with Gen Z and the millennials, everything's got to be moving. So they don't necessarily find it exciting if you don't have movement. Where back in our day, and I'm part of the Gen Xers that are slowly dying off as part of this baseball, the baseball enthusiasts, we have a different perspective of the game. I think that if we can somehow reteach the game to a lot of these youth that grow up not really understanding why, sometimes when nobody's moving, it's still exciting. We might be better off, but I don't know if we can actually do that. I think, a lot of the things that they have done by making the bases bigger and putting the time clock on to try and speed up the game, might be the best way for them to be able to try and combat that, supposed non-movement, quote unquote, boring part of the game, if you can understand what I mean by that.
I do, and I don't think I've ever thought about it like that before, but that's an interesting perspective, and it makes a lot of sense for sure.
Well, I look at the cover of the book, and it has what appears to be 4 players for NC Central, and they all appear to be white. And you're talking about this gets to the point you were talking about. At a historically black college, the majority of the baseball team was white, and you see it. You watch a lot of college baseball. It was just on ESPN, and very few players of color are playing in college baseball. Now that's a little different in the minor leagues. But what is there something that the colleges can do? You mentioned Major League Baseball, but you said there's only 17 HBCUs even playing college baseball in the NCAA now. Well, is there anything that can be done to address that problem? Because if they're not playing at the college level, it's really hard to get to the major league level.
Well, I had quoted in my book a gentleman from the Shadow League, which is a website that focuses on sports from an African-American perspective. And he even said that, baseball at HBCUs is basically on the extinction list, for the simple fact that as we, are growing up in today's society, he said that, when he was growing up, and he's our age, I'm 57, he's basically my age, and saying, baseball was just as much a part of our across the board sports as football and basketball were. Nowadays, baseball gets lost. There's still the basketball and the football aspect that they focus on today, but kids are going more to, the African Americans are going more toward track, even more toward lacrosse, and you see this, and it's just been a slow process over the past 40 years that's led to this. So what he was trying to state was, until HBCUs see more black athletes coming out and playing for them, you're going to start seeing more and more of these schools dropping baseball when they have the opportunity. And that was really the biggest thing. NCCU used COVID as the reason why they dropped the program, that financially it was not feasible. And meanwhile, like I said, this kind of hit us blindsided. We didn't know what any of the issues were. And it wasn't until I actually looked into the actual budgets for the past 4 years to find out that baseball at NCCU was the only sport on campus that was actually generating revenue. They were not in the red. They were self-sustaining. So that really kind of hit me and said, well, then what is the reason why? If they are self-sustaining, why would they get rid of the program? And then, so I go into this thought process at the end of the book, and I give my reasons why I believe that the North Carolina Central chancellor and board of directors decided to jettison baseball from their athletic program.
That's Ed Porcelli, William Peace baseball assistant coach, former NCCU baseball assistant coach, and author of The Last Dance, The Eagles Rise to Extinction, joining us. Ed, thank you so much. Where can people find the book if they want it?
All they got to do is go to Amazon.com, just punch in The Last Dance, my last name Porcelli, and it should pop up.
All right.
And I really appreciate you guys have me on board. And in homage, I'm wearing my UNC Tar Heel polo shirt in homage to two UNC grads.
Thank you, Ed. Appreciate you.
Okay, guys. We'll see you.